July 10th, 2025 meeting of the City of Royal Oak Zoning Board of Appeals meeting to order. The board does not write the zoning ordinance, but does have the authority to grant relief from it where practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship would result. The board will vote on each agenda item following a public hearing. Use variants require a minimum of 6 affirmative votes in order to grant the requested variances. Non-use variances require a minimum of 5 affirmative votes in order to grant the variances. Please note that any order of the board is valid for a period of 1 year. If you would like to request that the board table or adjourn your case due to the absence of a full board, you must inform the chairperson immediately after the public hearing. Petitioners shall do their best to limit their presentations to 10 minutes. Each participant in a public hearing shall do their best to limit their comments to 3 minutes. So because Chairperson Offek is not here, we obviously do not have a full board, so I will be asking each of the petitioners if they would like to go through before the board deliberates. So with that, we'd like to go to number 2, approval of minutes. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion to approve the minutes. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes. Unfinished business, case number 250615, the public hearing of the appeal of Michael Willoughby and Associates, petitioner, and George M. Blauer, owner, for the following variances.
Thank you. This item was postponed from last month, but I'll go over it again since we did have 3 board members who were absent. The site itself is located on the south side of Greenleaf Drive, and it is in the one-family large lot residential zoning district. And the site itself is developed with a single-family dwelling and an attached garage. The total lot area is approximately 0.38 of an acre. The petitioner is proposing to construct a new 600 square foot, 1-story addition onto the dwelling, which is going to be used as a senior accessory dwelling. Now, the zoning ordinance does actually allow senior accessory dwellings as a special land use, but they are required to meet very specific performance standards, which are listed in the zoning ordinance. And as similar to last month, I did print that section out and provided it to you all to review. And this proposal was first presented before the city's planning commission, and they did provide site plan and special land use approval with the contingency that the petitioner obtain the 2 listed variances that are before you now. So as you all are probably well familiar with, is that the zoning ordinance does limit single-family dwellings to no more than 3,500 square feet of usable floor area. The Zoning Board of Appeals did previously grant a variance to permit this house when it was first built to exceed that cap, and at that time the variance was for 377 square feet. Now, obviously, the senior accessory dwelling is its own unit, but it's still included in the total usable floor area calculation. So the new cumulative size of the house with the addition will be 4,466 square feet. And the zoning ordinance requires that any modification or addition needs to result in compliance with all applicable zoning ordinance provisions. So this new addition will actually be increasing the nonconformity of this property. So they first need a variance to alter/expand a nonconforming structure in a nonconforming manner. And then they also need a second variance to waive the additional 600 square feet from what the previous board approved at when the house was first constructed. Staff did also note in your report that there was also the prior action taken by this board to allow the petitioner to construct a garage, which was in excess of what the zoning ordinance did allow. But when the petitioner did submit plans for construction, it actually contained a decreased garage size, which was in compliance at that time. So I wanted to point this out again because the senior accessory dwelling does contain its own 247 square foot garage, which is separate from the garage that's already there. Now, the combined accessory garage, as well as the existing garage that's there, are still result in compliance with all applicable provisions for accessory buildings. So I guess to summarize, all variances that you see listed tonight in your report are the same ones from last month. There have been no changes. Thank you.
All right, and with that, the petitioner may come forward and present the case. Any questions?
Alex, when you guys are, when the calculation was made for the square footage, prior approval was for 377 square feet in addition to 3,500?
Yes, that was in excess of 3,500.
So if the house wasn't built to that degree, does that excess square footage, does the approval of that go away, or that still is part of their site approval?
It was still part of the approval at that time. So,
Okay, so if the current home is 3,866, the ask is 600, I get a total of 4,466 square
yes,
feet.
because when they did submit for permits, there was slight modifications to the house.
I see, okay, that explains it then. And the special land use approval, that doesn't convey an additional 600 square feet to their allowable square footage.
Correct.
The 3,500 is still the limit,
That's correct.
and hence that's why they're asking for.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Clatton.
Just a simple, more of a clarification. I believe I saw the report, Alex, but is the overall lot coverage still less than 30%?
Yes, we have it as 18.7%.
Okay, that's combined with the current house and the proposed
Correct.
addition. Okay. And 30% is allowable in this district.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, now you may go forward.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Keith Logston. I'm an architect with Michael Willoughby and Associates, representing Mr. and Mrs. Blower. As you're aware, the owner wishes to create an additional dwelling unit to accommodate his aging mother under the senior accessory housing provision of the zoning ordinance. On May 13th, the Planning Commission unanimously approved our site plan for the special land use, which is required for the additional dwelling unit. Several commissioners even commented that this provision was created for this exact situation and that the proposed plan did a good job of satisfying the need while meeting all of the requirements of the special land use provision. And I'll outline those here. The dwelling unit will be attached to the existing principal building as required. The floor area of the proposed senior accessory dwelling will be no more than 600 square feet as permitted. The dedicated off-street parking space and attached garage will be provided for the senior accessory dwelling as required. The building height of the accessory dwelling will not exceed 15 feet as permitted. Principal dwelling will be owner-occupied for the duration of the special land use permit. The owner has submitted a letter detailing the need for a space to accommodate his aging mother. Verifiable proof will be submitted that the elderly family member continues to occupy the additional dwelling unit as required. The owner will record a deed restriction with Oakland County stating that the property may not be used as a two-family dwelling once it is sold or is no longer owner-occupied, as required. And the proposed garage for the accessory dwelling unit will be 247 square feet, bringing the total accessory floor area to 798 square feet, where 800 is permitted. If the provisions of the ordinance are applied strictly, practical difficulties will result to the owner as follows. The restrictions of the ordinance unreasonably prevent the owner from providing an accessible dwelling unit for his aging mother because the space within the existing home cannot be rearranged reasonably, conveniently, and safely to accommodate the need. The variance would do substantial justice to the owner and to other property owners. Other property owners in the district, as we are requesting the minimum amount of additional area necessary to accommodate the need. The proposed addition will blend seamlessly with the home by matching the materials, the scale, and proportions of the existing building. Property is unique in that any addition to the existing home for this special land use would require a variance. And the need for the owner's elderly mother was not anticipated as part of the original home. I'd also like to point out that the provision of this ordinance addresses a critical issue that continues to present itself as more and more of our aging population wishes to age at home, be close to their families. So I applaud the foresight of the Planning Commission for addressing this growing need. And I would be happy to answer any questions. The owner, Mr. Blower, is here as well. We can answer questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the petitioner? Mr. Lineweber?
The ordinance says that the additional dwelling unit is to be connected or part of the existing structure. Can you describe the connection of how this is a connected unit?
The connection is a stone wall with an archway that connects the proposed building to the existing building.
And is that, I'll ask the,
We brought that up when it went before the Planning Commission for their special land use and site plan approval. The zoning ordinance doesn't define what constitutes attached, so we left that up to the Planning Commission to make that determination, and they felt that this design did meet the definition for an attached structure.
I see, thank you.
Mr. Klatt?
One question. I turned it off because of the feedback. But I understand we're not looking at any side yard setback issues or concerns, but I did see I saw a letter from one of the neighbors, actually your immediate neighbor, about concerns they may have about the addition. Did you explore possibly pushing the addition behind the office? I know why you didn't do it because of the windows in the office, but did you explore maybe taking some of the weight or perceived bulk of this addition and kind of sliding it more into the rear yard to provide more buffer on the side?
It was really more of a planning issue, trying to not encroach into the backyard.
Yeah, and the other thing too I noticed about that, it would force you to kind of side turn the garage, which would lengthen the driveway. I know we're trying to promote more green space in the city versus paving. So I just wanted to get your take on that to see if you explored pushing that in to maybe, like I said, provide more green space for the neighbor's side.
The fact that we met the side yard setback with some room to spare just sort of kind of dictated to us that there was plenty of room in the side yard. And the fact that it's a one-story addition is helpful.
That's a great point too. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Okay, so I've got a really quick question. I'm looking at the wall and at the what looks like the arched doorway. So just to confirm that if somebody going in, either your elderly mother or you or whoever go in, that will be inside the house, and there'll be two doors, like one to the main house and one to the accessory unit, or is that the main way in and out of that unit?
There will be a door into the main house and into the accessory dwelling unit separate.
Okay, so you go into that, and then it's like a hallway or something like that. Okay.
And brought it down close to grade again for accessibility.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. With that, unless there are any other questions by members of the board, we will open it up to public comment. Again, remind members of the public that you have 3 minutes. Anybody would? Oh, yes, go ahead.
So my name is George Blower. I'm the petitioner. So I wanted to also bring a comment. So first of all, thank you for your service as members of the zoning board. I stand before you as a resident of Royal Oak. I've raised my family here. My daughter attended the shrine. We pray here. We go to church here. I'm a business owner. I bring employees from other parts of the city outside of Royal Oak here to work here in downtown Royal Oak. So I love the city. One of the things that's great about it is that it's progressive, right? So one of the things in their wisdom and their foresight, for many years have had this provision that allows for these senior accessory dwelling units. And it's only gotten better, in my view, if you look at the master plan. because that now continues that same trajectory. So really, I stand before you just as, the son of a single mother who's, needs care, to be able to give her a chance to spend her last years in dignity, to take advantage of a provision that's in the law. And so the only thing that I need from this committee is just the variance to be able to construct the unit. So I'm here today to respectfully request your approval for a variance that would allow us to move forward with a permitted accessory dwelling unit. And this, as noted, has already been unanimously approved by the Planning Commission. And I note that they voted with a motion that they wish that they could have done it for their own mothers. Again, our challenge just lies in this technical restriction. Without this variance, we're effectively barred from utilizing the Planning Commission's approval and from participating in a city-supported policy aimed at aging in place. Our home is at full capacity. It's not suitable for senior living. All the bedrooms are upstairs. So with multiple staircases, it's not only difficult but dangerous for my mother to navigate. It creates a hardship, right? What is my choice now? Now I would be forced to leave the city potentially, take my business outside of the city, maybe go to Birmingham or West Bloomfield, where they have houses that can support multi-generational living. I don't want to do that. I love Royal Oak. So this is going to prevent reasonable use. This current restrictions prevent reasonable use, which is, the ADA unit that's already been approved. Obviously, it's going to give substantial justice to me to be able to care for my family member, lesser or additional justice for the community, right? That's already through the master plan. Unique circumstances is that, my house currently doesn't accommodate it, right? I don't have an ADA unit in my house, so I need to build one. This is not self-created. The ADA, what creates the need is the fact that I got this approval from the Planning Commission to be able to build an ADA unit. So again, I respectfully ask for your approval to build the ADA unit to keep our family together, safe and rooted here in the city we love. Thank you. But one thing about the neighbor, I think we should look at it in context. If you actually look at that letter, there's, just real quick, there's 8 lines. He went around the neighborhood and asked everyone. He only got one person to sign it, which is a single family, an elderly lady that lives by herself and depends on him. He twisted her arm to sign it. He doesn't live next to the side where it's going to be constructed. The person who lives next to it is not here to object. His only substantive point that it was going to decrease the property values. I have a letter here from my realtor who says quite the opposite. It would increase the property values.
Thank you very much. If you
Thank
want
you
to
for that
pass,
additional time.
if you want to pass the letter around, you can start over here, and we'll go pass it around. Any other members of the public that would like to come and speak for or against this issue? Going once, going twice, going 3 times, and that will be it. All right. Before we bring it back to this side of the board, would you like to continue? Again, we don't have a full board. You can roll the dice. We may or may not have a full board next month, so.
How many board members do you have?
We're short one.
Yes, please.
Okay. With that, I will bring it back to this side of the board, and can we get either discussions or a motion going? Mr. Reddy.
I would just like to start the discussion, I guess, because I'm torn on this one. The first thing, though, is I think when this was discussed at the Planning Commission, they were pretty clear that they were just deciding on the special land use, and they were leaving this variance to us. And I think it would be good for us to also focus ourselves only on this lot size, the square footage variance before us. I think the Planning Commission was 100% right in granting the special land use. It meets all the requirements. So what I'm torn about is that this house is already above the limit, and now we're going to add 600 square feet. And the petitioner is the one that created the house that is too large. I was curious, I wondered, does the 3,500 square foot limit make it so that this senior accessory special land use would be impossible to use. But there are actually several houses on the street that are at 2,900 or less that could use this special land use. So I don't think that's the case. So I don't see anything unique to the property, to the lot, that would cause the difficulty that necessitates this extra square footage. But anyway, that's where I'm at. But I am torn because I do think this is a good, this meets the special land use, so.
Did I see Mr. Christensen first?
Yeah. I just wanted to echo Mr. Reddy's statements. I'm having specific trouble with standards B and C. Number one, that the variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to the property owners in the district. It's creating this huge frontage, this wall going up almost the entire length of that property. So I don't think that it's doing substantial justice to the neighborhood. It does feel out of character with the neighborhood, and it's already received a variance to increase the size. And then in addition to that, standard C, that the plighted landowner is due to the unique circumstances of the property. I haven't been able to identify anything unique to this property different from other properties in the neighborhood justifying the need for a variance. It just appears to be what he needs for his own family situation, but we are to look at the property. And so that's my position.
Mr. Klatt?
Oh, I mean, those are all great points. I think the one thing, I actually think it was pretty thoughtfully designed. I mean, it's actually stepped back quite a way from the front yard. There's quite a distance from the public way. It meets the setback criteria. I also like the fact that they kept it single story. I mean, it's pretty low in stature. So I think there's a good job to kind of break up the massing. Even though it's longer in the lot line, they did a great job breaking up the massing. So I commend the design team from that standpoint. So even though it is a long wall, I think they did a great job trying to articulate the difference of that. The one thing too to consider, and I brought this up when Mr. Borski answered my question about lot coverage, is we've often granted leeway for these large lots. I mean, we're talking 19, 20% overall lot coverage, even with this addition. So there's some rationale here these lots are big, and I think they can support more size in the lot too. It doesn't look like it looks like it reasonably fits the lot. So even though I think there's some special consideration for the larger lots, and the fact we're well under 30%.
Mr. Lineweber?
One of the issues I have with the design is, I know you had asked about the entrance into it. If you enter into a vestibule and you've got, direction within the house or not. I don't see that on the floor plan. What I'm seeing is an entirely exterior accessed unit. So it's attached only in name only, I guess, or in a cursory way, because from the entry into the unit to get into the house, you've got to actually go outside, come through the front door or the covered porch on the house with the side door on the garage side to enter in. So it seems to not really hit the spirit of the ordinance as a connected unit, and it really feels like an entirely separate unit. Now, while that is a real benefit, I think, for the petitioner, I look at this and say, well, what happens down the road? And eventually there is a down the road for all of us. And what does this unit turn into? And it truly is a separate dwelling unit that at this point is not allowed by the ordinance. And I struggle with this unit meeting the spirit of the ordinance as it stands right now.
How about a motion? Somebody want to take a crack at it? Okay, so
Go ahead, Irv. You got this one.
I guess I'll make a motion to deny the variance. Variances as requested.
there's a motion on the table. Does anybody want to second that? Mr. Lineweber.
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Reddy, go for it.
Well, yeah, just for the reasons I kind of mentioned, when I first spoke on this. Unfortunately, I mean, it does look nice, and I do appreciate the idea behind it. However, when I look at the criteria, I do not see where it would meet, section B, because the neighbor has, objected, and C, that I just don't see anything unique about the property. I know people disagree on that, but I don't see anything unique that's about the lot that is creating the practical difficulty here. And D, that the alleged hardship has not been created by a person presently having an interest in the property, and that the petitioner did build this house that is already over the square footage limit. So for those reasons, I'm unfortunately opposed to it.
Mr. Lineweber?
Mr. Reddy said it well. I think that the challenge that we face is looking at the future plans that the city may see and zoning modifications or may not. And we're trying, there may be trying to anticipate what those things may entail. I think we're here to look at the ordinance as it is today. And while the master plan does allude to some overall city intentions, it's not at all clear on how those may be achieved. I think this particular this solution to the petitioner's problem or challenge is not being driven by the lot itself. It's very much of their own creation, and so therefore I do not feel that it meets the criteria for approval.
Mr. Bastian?
I'm really of two minds about this. I agree with my colleagues to my right in that I don't know that this meets the criteria of the spirit of the ordinance as it stands. I am troubled a bit by the connection to the main unit sort of in name only, and while I absolutely understand personal hardship, unfortunately, we're not supposed to be taking emotion into the issue. We're supposed to be going clearly by the ordinance itself.
Mr. Klatt?
Oh, I didn't have any.
Okay, we're going to go down the line.
No further comments.
Ms. Robinson?
I'm really torn on this, and I think I'm more understanding the spirit of what this is than we was last month. I like the idea of this. It does concern me about what happens in the future, to have it, that it's not so connected. I think that's a big part of it. I'm also, the large lot, it's only taking up 18% of the lot. That part I'm like okay with. And I'm thinking, I'm kind of fighting with myself too. If this was a plan from ground up, that we were gonna have this house with this, and it's not an addition, and he was coming to us with that additional 800 square feet, I would be thinking about it entirely different. So that's why I'm torn.
And Mr. Moore?
Yes, thanks. To me, I don't feel as though we're being asked to evaluate the site plan here and whether this is connected or not. I think that's already been determined by the Planning Commission. They've granted their assessment of that and that it does qualify as connected. What I see before us is altering a non-conforming structure and waiving 600 square feet, not whether or not this counts as a senior accessory dwelling.
Yeah.
I will not be in support for the reasons I already mentioned earlier. Lot coverage is probably the big piece here. Could they reduce the size of it? It's not a very big unit. It's really a one-bedroom apartment, and the spaces aren't excessive, and it wouldn't really change much anyways. I don't think we're talking about minor square footage here. And then again, the same thing too, I understand, I think it would make more sense for it to be connected internally, but I think our ordinance does allow for this, or it would have been a bigger issue, or would have been an item here on the agenda if it was not connected in the eyes of the planning department.
I too will be voting against the motion to deny. I actually think the practical difficulty is the petitioner's elderly mother. I think as somebody who has a father that is starting to get quite elderly, I definitely understand where that's coming from, and obviously to everybody's point, everybody made some really great points, but I agree most with Mr. Moore, where he said that the Planning Commission has already approved this. And then I know that Mr. Lineweber did put up a very good point saying that there would be, there could be issues down the road with what happens to the dwelling unit. I think if I recall correctly, there was going to be something that was going to be filed with the county as a deed restriction, not allowing that. And obviously, if they have to certify with the city and with the county, I'm not exactly sure that process, but if they have to certify every year to the city and the county, I think that's, then they're asking for trouble if they violate that. So we obviously want to give them the benefit of the doubt. So I will be voting against the motion to deny. Anybody else? All right, with that, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion to deny the variances, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All those against? It looks like it was 4 apiece, is that right? So the motion fails. Do we have another motion in the other direction? Mr. Moore.
Yeah, motion to approve both requested A and B requested variances.
Do we have a second? Mr. Klatt. Mr. Moore, your turn.
I have nothing more to say.
Okay. Ms. Robinson?
I'm okay.
Mr. Christensen?
I'm good.
Mr. Klatt?
Same here.
All right. Mr. Bastian? All right, Mr. Lineweber. Okay, Mr. Reddy. Okay, so I've got to try to convince somebody here. So I'm just saying this for the record. If there is a no, if this goes 4-4 again, the motion is considered denied. Just for the record. So this one's going to be kind of tough because I think we've all kind of made up our minds. Yeah,
I think
Mr.
there's one question. I don't know if this would change any of the board members' votes, but does it have to do more with the connection? If for some reason the applicant could figure out a way to connect it internally without that exterior connection, would that have an impact on a vote possibly? Just throwing it out there. If there was a modification made to this plan that could show a physical connection, would that help?
No, because my opposition is based on standards B and C, so they're not based on the connection.
Let's proceed with the vote.
Okay, any last questions? Okay, so we're going to go forward and vote. Again, all those in favor to approve, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
All right, looks like we deadlocked 4-4, so I apologize that it did not, motions failed, and thank you. All right, now we're on to the next case. That is 250616 at 712 South Connecticut Avenue.
This site's located on the west side of South Connecticut Avenue, and it's in the one-family residential zoning district. And the parcel itself is 50 feet in width, 130 feet in depth, and it has 6,500 square feet of total lot area. And it is already developed with an existing single-family dwelling and a detached garage at the rear of the property. And the petitioner is proposing a 240 square foot addition onto the back of the garage, which is labeled as a rec room, and that'll be adjacent to what's labeled as a garage area. And then they're also proposing a set of external stairs, which would provide access to a new second level, which is labeled as a studio on their floor plans. Since this was postponed from last month, the petitioner has modified their plans. More specifically, the bathroom that was present on the second floor has been removed. In addition to that, the new water and sewer lines, which were visible on the first floor plans, were also removed as well. So with that being said, variances A, B, and C are no longer needed. Variances D and E, however, are still required. For variance D in particular, the petitioner's architect also did reduce the height of the garage by 1 foot. So that shows a new height of 18.4 feet. And the zoning ordinance, of course, still limits the maximum height for accessory buildings to no more than 15 feet, and that's measured still at the midpoint between the peak and the eaves. So the petitioner is seeking now a slightly reduced variance to waive 3.4 feet from the maximum permitted height of 15 feet. Still based upon this height, the zoning ordinance still requires a 5-foot rear and side yard setback. So even though it's been reduced in height, the petitioner still requires a variance to waive the 1.5 feet because the garage is only providing a 3.5-foot south side yard setback. So in other words, variance E remains unchanged. Just as a general note, in order to create a clear record for the meeting minutes, I would suggest that the board either deny variances A, B, and C, or just give the petitioner the option to withdraw them. Any option would be acceptable. And of course, as well, I'd still encourage the board to consider the non-use criteria as you come to a decision on this case. Thank you.
Any questions? Mr. Klatt?
Just a couple quick questions. So from a roof height standpoint, the driver of this variance is based on the dormer, correct? The fairly small dormer?
Yeah, the dormer is the highest midpoint.
And, okay, thank you for that.
Sure.
So the main body of the garage generally meets the height restriction, the overall garage roof line, the major piece.
Based upon what the petitioner's architect shows, it looks like it's 15 feet 7 inches. So it is a little bit beyond what the zoning ordinance does permit, but it is obviously close.
Okay, and then for item E,
Yes,
I know that the existing garage is already on the lot line, correct?
correct.
If, for example, let's say they stepped the addition in, is that variance still required because they're modifying the roof line over that existing non-conforming wall section?
Well, it's not just limited to the first floor addition, it's also the second floor as well.
Okay.
Yes,
So stepping the addition in doesn't really matter. It would still be required.
that's correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Lineweber?
The dash line that's shown on the first floor plan, that's the profile of the dormer, correct?
Which page is that?
Right there on the right-hand side. The first floor plan, there's that dash line that's toward the south or toward the bottom part of the garage, near the entrance, right there.
Right there. It looks to be, but I would confirm that with the petitioner's architect who's here as well.
Okay. Is the garage a new construction or existing construction?
There is the existing garage. They would be looking to do the addition off the rear and then construct the second floor as well onto it.
But is the garage as it's existing being demolished?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Questions? All right, seeing none, the petitioner can come forward and present their case.
Good evening. My name is Blake Hatterman. I'm the architect for the Wymans, working with them to help them accomplish their project. Based on the comments and the discussion from our meeting last month, we took the opportunity to take a second harder look at the project to minimize the project to its bare essentials. Although it would be nice for Ms. Wyman to have the combination of utilities in her writing studio, we felt that reducing that simply to a sink or to a sink and a toilet wasn't enough to warrant that. So we have retracted that request from the plans that we resubmitted to the board to consider. To answer the question regarding the dormer, yes, there is a dormer both in the front and the back of the studio. That is to maximize the space that she has to provide her creative space for her. One of the drivers for the height I'd also like to mention is the recreation room. We are intending on putting a golf simulator in there, which has specific height restrictions that we can't really get around doing a lower roof pitch, doing lower walls. It simply wouldn't function properly if we did that. So the key is here is we're saving as much as the garage as we can. We'll extend the walls. We'll provide the program that the owner needs, and we'd appreciate your consideration to let us do that with the reduced scope. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. I think we exhausted a lot of conversation last time, so we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
So are we requesting them to officially withdraw A, B, and C?
You can offer that option to them, yes.
If the board wants us, or would allow us to have the bathroom, we would like to have that. But if that is a no-go for an approval, then we would retract that.
Okay, I guess that doesn't fully answer my question. I'm just trying to figure out what we're looking at here, whether it's A, B, C, D, and E, or just...
Based upon the plans that are provided in front of you right now, you're really only considering variances, the last two. So that would be D and E.
Okay.
So if we don't address A, B, and C, they just hang out there and nothing happens with them?
Correct. That's why I would advise the board to either offer them to the petitioner be withdrawn or just outright deny them.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Mr. Lineweber?
I'll ask the same question. The intent is you're extending the existing garage, or are you reconstructing the existing garage?
No, the existing garage will remain. It will be extended to the back, and then some height will be added to the exterior walls.
So
to support the new roof.
you're keeping the wall, you're adding another plate, top plate, and creating a knee wall in essence?
Correct.
To raise the height of, the clear height, to provide the height in the back as well?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Reddy?
Could you just help me understand what is it that's unique about the lot that I understand for the setback. That one I understand. What is unique about the lot that necessitates the higher roof?
The height is generated essentially just based on the use that we're proposing for the building, nothing other than that. I mean, we can't accommodate the spaces reasonably within the height restriction if we were to adhere strictly to the ordinance.
Any other questions?
If the height was not approved, what might your solution be?
If the height is not approved, the project is dead.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Klatt?
I mean, I wasn't here last month, but I do appreciate you going back and reconsidering some of these variance requests. So that's big. We're always trying to reduce the number of variances. So thank you for doing that. And I think just, looking at, and I also appreciate the design. I think they could have taken the tack to maybe extend that dormer across the full width and the backside, moving more like a shed type dormer, which would have more visual impact. These dormers are fairly small and quaint. So I think you're somewhat penalized. Our ordinance doesn't allow for any exception related to a dormer. I know we're not comparing other communities, but some communities have some degree of flexibility when it comes to a dormer. We don't. So this design is fairly modest. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a thing. But thank you again for considering these reduction in variances.
I just want to agree with that. I was here last month and I was very conflicted on this case. I didn't think it met most of the standards, but I really appreciate the revisions. I think it's much more reasonable now. I don't feel it's going to be a burden on the neighbors or a hardship, so I'm much more comfortable.
Okay, any other questions before we go to public comment? Okay, so seeing no more questions. Was that a comment or a question?
It would be a comment.
Okay, so okay. Any questions? Okay, so seeing none, we'll open it up to public comment. As a reminder, if for those of you who have public comment, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. We appreciate your consideration.
All right.
Hey there, I'm Kimberly, homeowner's wife, I suppose. Just wanted to say, and this was present last month as well, but someone had made a comment or a question, do I have neighbor support? We have all of our neighbor support. We have written letters, we've got signed petitions, there's no problems. And yes, I would still love a restroom. I think it makes a lot of sense. You guys were afraid that we might turn it into a second dwelling. That was never the intent, and hopefully this cements that it is simply for my personal design use.
Any other comments?
Sorry, I do not do well talking in public, but I will do my best. I live on South Connecticut. We are neighbors. We live a few houses down. We are, and my husband's here too, we are in full support of this. We think it'll add character. We don't think it's going to make the neighborhood look, unreasonable. And I think the hardship would be if they moved. So I would be very sad. So anyway, sorry, I'm not good at talking.
Okay, one at a time, please. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Larry Noble. I live on 702 South Connecticut, 2 houses down from the Wymans. I've lived on that street for 40 years. I have talked to neighbors on Connecticut and on Vermont, which is the street west of us. Nobody has any bad feelings about that whatsoever. They fully agree with it, that it's fine. And I agree with her, losing the Wymans would be a disaster. Thank you.
Anybody else? Again, you have 3 minutes.
No, I mean, I think the only thing, sorry.
But yeah, please, it's okay, just come up and speak to the mic.
No, I do think we had, like I said, I think she submitted the letter, or a few of the neighbors that signed the petition, all in support of it. So I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at that, but also, consider that we are all, on board with it. So, okay, I'm done.
Any other public comment? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right, we'll close the public comment. Mr. Moore, I saw your hand up. Mr. Bastian, I have not forgotten about you.
Yeah, can we just see the petition, please? Do you mind if we pass that around and just look at it?
It's in the packet.
Oh, it's in the packet?
It was last month.
Oh, okay. Okay, I thought this was something different you were bringing with you that wasn't in it. Got it. Okay, never mind. No, we're good. If it's what we already have, I'm good. Thank you.
Sorry, before we continue with Mr. Bastian, I'm really just trying to cut him off. That's what it is. No, I'm kidding. But the real thing is, like last time, we have only 8 of us. So we don't have a full board. I also do want to either reiterate to you that those 3 variances, A, B, and C, would you rather us deny them, or would you like to withdraw them? But again, you guys should decide if you want us to continue forward or do it another month. Again, you are rolling the dice. There's no difference. Oh, sorry.
If they withdraw, if they come back within a year, if it's denied, they can't.
If they were to withdraw it, essentially, they would just be taking their request off the table. So it wouldn't be associated with the plans that you make a decision on tonight. If it's denied, it's just outright, it's just done.
Right, so they couldn't come back within a year.
Well, sure, they could.
But if they withdraw, potentially they could come back.
Mm-hmm.
For those 3 things. They could come back, for those 3 things,
In theory, yeah.
if they withdraw.
Yeah, the client would like to withdraw those and not have them denied.
Yeah, that's.
I'm fairly confident that we don't want to come back before you, so.
So just to confirm, we're withdrawing A, B, and C.
Correct.
Okay.
I kind of thought we already did that when I submitted the new plans to Alex, so thank you for making it formal.
No problem. Okay, so we have D and E still on the table. Comments and/or a motion, Mr. Bastian.
So comment, first of all, thank you for coming back this month. I know last month was probably a little bit frustrating given that we were 3 bodies down. we have a fuller board, so I thank you for your patience. This home is more or less in my neighborhood. This is within 3 blocks of my own house. And I have actually spent a lot of time over the course of the past month thinking about this. And I understand being an artist and needing a studio, and I am a musician myself. I understand the need for creative space. The piece that gets me a little hung up on this is the rec room itself. Being on this board, we're to consider finding the least possible variance or the minimum possible variance to satisfy the requests of the homeowner. I actually didn't have any issue with the combination of utilities. It is the golf simulator that actually gets me a little hung up, just because if that had been removed from the project, I would have absolutely no opposition to it. I'm still not outright against this project, given the good standing in the neighborhood, given the lot coverage, given the consideration in reducing the variance. I guess part of me is just curious about the rec room itself and it being a required piece of this project.
Mr. Moore?
If the golf simulator wasn't there, the room would still be there. Are you saying you have a problem with the size of the room because of the golf simulator?
I'm curious if the project, if the rec room became part of the studio, or if the studio were where the rec room is and then larger space up above.
Oh, I see, because I was thinking if the rec room wasn't there, the studio would be smaller
Right,
than
no,
usable almost. So, okay.
I understand that
Okay,
completely.
thank you.
No, my curiosity is whether or not the rec room could be removed from the project could be modified, and that space that would be rec room could be dedicated to the studio space, and then I think we would be within all height requirements.
No, it's now just our turn to talk. Any other comments? Any other motion? Ms. Robinson?
I'll just say, I grew up here, and I mean, I grew up in VFW Park. I remember when the Boys Club first came there, and mad because it wasn't Boys and Girls Club. I love the design that you're doing here, and please, the thing about the bathroom and all that, it's like more about changing the density of neighborhoods, and if it becomes something that we do all the time, and that's what that was all about. So it's, I mean, I totally understand the space. I love the project. I'm totally in support.
Mr. Klatt?
I'll make a motion to approve item D and E.
With motion on the table, Mr. Moore, I saw you first.
Okay.
All right, we'll start with Mr. Klatt, and we'll go this way.
No, again, I already stated in my case, I think this design is fairly quaint in size. We're already talking about a condition on the existing, on the existing setback lines. We're already in violation there. I asked the question earlier, if we were to step that in, would it offset or reduce this variance? It doesn't. So adding that kink or weird offset would make this structure look would draw more attention to it. I think it's fairly simple. From a height standpoint, these dormers are tiny. Like I said, the applicant could have stretched them across and still have had the same variance request. I think they did a great job in trying to minimize it. So again, no impact on the public way. It's tucked in the backyard. They have full support of the neighborhood. This is pretty modest in my opinion.
Mr. Moore?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it's a very minor request for what they're trying to accomplish here, and the amount of support in the neighborhood is outstanding.
Ms. Robinson?
Looks good. I like it.
Mr. Christensen?
I'm thrilled with the adjustments from last month.
Mr. Klatt, anything else?
I was just going to say that we're not even talking about size in this case. We still meet all criteria for size. So if it's a rec room, if it's just a storage area for bikes, whatever it is, we're still in compliance.
Mr. Reddy? Mr. Lineweber?
Yeah, I like the design. I like the solution, and I think I did look at, well, what if that rec room area were, if they stepped it in a little bit, but that would be it's really non-usable space. It's around the back of the yard. So this kind of creates a clean envelope all the way around. And I agree with Mr. Klatt that the solution with the dormers, they're not oversized, in my opinion. They're appropriate for the size of this. And square footage wise, and the overall, we're in compliance. So the 3.5 foot easement, or the 3.5 foot clearance to the property line would be the case no matter what this would have come up. So it's the solution doesn't make it any worse, in my opinion. So I'll be in support.
Mr. Bastian? All right, I'll be voting in favor of this. My colleagues here have done a great job taking my words out of my mouth, so I love that. With that, we will go to a vote. All of those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. 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 All opposed? All right, motion passes 8-0, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, new business. We've got 121 North Blair Avenue. That is 250717.
Subject site's located on the west side of North Blair Avenue, and it's in the one-family residential zoning district. And the property is 90 feet in width, and it's between 126.57 and 126.6 feet in depth. And total lot area is 11,389 square feet. And it is already developed with a single-family dwelling with a detached garage at the rear of the property. And the petitioner is proposing to divide the property back into its original 2 platted lots to create 2 new individual single-family home sites. On the petitioner's survey, it does note that the existing garage will be demolished, but the house that's there is going to be retained. So retaining the house on the now smaller lot will still actually meet all applicable zoning ordinance provisions. Proposed Lot A will have a lot area of 5,694 square feet, and the proposed Lot B will have 5,695 square feet. Now, standard zoning ordinance language requires that interior lots in the one-family residential zoning district to be at least 50 feet in width, 100 feet in depth, and have a total lot area of no less than 6,000 square feet. It is recognized that there are actually a substantial number of lots and neighborhoods in the city that simply don't meet this provision. So the zoning ordinance actually contains language which is referred to as the compatibility provision. And it simply states that if there are 50% or more of the other developed lots on that block are the same size or smaller than the size of the lots proposed, then that land division can still be approved because the lots would still be within the same size character of the immediate area. So the proposed lot widths of 45 feet actually do meet the compatibility provision since all other developed interior lots on that block are also that width as well. And obviously, as I mentioned, they are over 126 feet in depth, so they already are also meeting the minimum required 100-foot depth. The issue, of course, lies with the lot area. So the proposed lots are smaller than all other developed interior lots on the block. So the proposed lots just require variances for being smaller than the minimum lot area of 6,000 square feet. More specifically, Lot A is required to waive 306 square feet, and parcel B needs a variance to waive 305 square feet, and both of those are, of course, from the minimum required 6,000 square foot of lot area, respectively. A few other details I'd like to point out is that this parcel actually in its current configuration is actually non-conforming in the way that it has 2 separate driveway and approaches. The zoning ordinance only permits 1, and we do have photos in your packets which show the presence of both of those. So approving this variance tonight would actually be bringing the site into compliance with this aspect of the zoning ordinance. One other anecdotal piece of information is that staff had the opportunity to review old aerial images of this parcel from the county, which dated back to the early 60s, and it did display the same house and garage in their current configuration. So it can obviously be reasonably assumed that whoever originally purchased these lots and built the house and the garage purchased them as the two separate lots and then combine them into one larger building site. Thank you.
Questions for staff, Mr. Moore?
Yeah, so I guess the last part there kind of addresses my question, because in the letter from the petitioner's attorney, it said no owner of the properties has ever sought to unify or combine these. They're saying that the city did it, so that's not correct? Is that?
Combine the properties?
Yeah, I mean, it's the exact wording here says no owner of the properties in question has ever sought to unify or combine the properties into a single lot under city ordinances. The city combined the two parcels into a single parcel tax identification number for ease of administrative convenience years ago.
Yeah, the petitioner's attorney can of course elaborate on that point, but typically land combinations are initiated by whoever owns the properties.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Christensen?
You might not have this number, or maybe I just missed it, but so it doesn't meet the compatibility for 50% of properties within a certain distance. What would that threshold be where, like, what is that minimum threshold that would have been permitted, and how deficient are they from it? Because I understand that these variances are the deficiency from 6,000 square feet, but not necessarily the compatibility.
So, let me grab this. So on the land division calculations, it either needs to, there are, if you exclude the subject property, there's 21 other developed interior lots on that block. So they would need to obviously be the same size or larger than 11 of those.
Okay. Got it.
And just a quick question for me, looking at this and not doing the math right away, I counted at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 that are 6,300 square feet. So it could be reasonably estimated that that number, which I'm again not trying to calculate, is going to be in that 6,300 square foot range.
For what in particular?
For the compatibility provision of the zoning ordinance.
Yes, plus there's another parcel that's over 7,000 square feet as well.
Okay, so it would have to be at least that size, if not greater.
Mm-hmm. Or at least or at a minimum be 6,000 square feet.
Okay.
Which is what this ordinance has.
The criteria is, as I understand it, is 50% of the lots. So when you look at the lowest 50% of that list, most of them are 5702 or roughly 5,700 plus minus square feet, right?
What do you mean when you say 50%?
Am I misunderstanding that?
It's 50% of the number of other developed interior lots on the block.
So if I take that list and take the lowest 50% of that list?
No, it would just be 50% of the 21 other developed interior lots. So in other words, they need to be the same size or smaller than at least, or same size or larger than at least half of the other lots on the block. You're not necessarily looking at specifically what those are and taking 50%. That makes sense.
And if I think, and I had the same problem as you, so I'm kind of repeating this out loud just to make sure I've understood it correctly too. There are 10 lots that would be smaller, or no, I'm lying. It would be 10 lots. The smallest 10 lots would still not be at least 6,000 square feet. Am I understanding you right, Mr. Lineweber?
Yes, the 50% of the lots are roughly 5,700 and some change square feet, roughly.
Sure.
So these lots they're within, they're close to that. Thank you.
Mr. Reddy?
I just had a question. Why does the planning division feel that 770-113 does not apply?
Which one is that specific?
Oh, that's the non-conforming lots in any zone in which the single-family dwellings are permitted, subject to limitations imposed by 772(1) and other provisions of this chapter. Single-family dwelling and customary accessory buildings may be erected on a lot of record at the effective date of the adoption of the amendment of this chapter. This provision shall apply even though a lot fails to meet the applicable requirements for the area or width, provided the setbacks and other requirements not involving area width shall conform to the regulations for the zone in which such lot is located.
Because this would be creating a brand-new lot. It may have been originally platted that way, but it was combined, so if he wants to split it off into a new lot, it would have to either meet the compatibility provision or meet the minimum size requirements.
I see. So this is meant for if the two lots had stayed separate, you'd be allowed to build?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Klatt?
I just want to, I'd always encourage the board members to look at, I mean, it's when you see it in a spreadsheet like that, it's a little bit more daunting. When you look up like the Oakland County Gateway and you see all the parcels platted out along the street, I mean, they're all 45 feet wide. And you start to look at it like 126.57, then at the north end, 126. It allows you to look at it more visually. And for what it's worth, it's just, when you look at it in a spreadsheet, it's a bit more daunting. But these lots are pretty consistent.
Any other questions? Ms. Robinson, is that a question?
No, it's just, no, comment.
So with that, let's get, the petitioner can come forward and state his case.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and zoning board members. I'm Dennis Cowan, and I am representing Lou Doman. We are asking, and he is asking, for a very modest request, and that is, and variance, that is about 5.1% of the required 6,000 square feet. It's about 300 feet, a little bit over 300 feet per lot. So I've been up here before you to ask for much more broader variance requests, and this is one of the more modest ones. I want to cover some of the details and maybe hopefully answer some of the questions or issues that came up. One other thing I wanted to point out is that we have like the tale of two parts of the block here. The one side of the block, which is the side that Mr. Doman's property is on, those are all the ones that are under 6,000 square feet. On the east side, across the street on Blair, those are all the ones that have an extra about 14 feet off the back. And I think I know why that happened, and I'll explain that later. So we have one side of the block, excluding the Doman property, there's 10 houses, there's 12 on the other side. So that means we hit 45% of the 50% compatibility if you do the math. So we're very close. But I'll talk about this in the broader context of the entire subdivision when it was platted. But Mr. Doman wanted to make a brief comment before you, or statement, and then I'll cover the details.
Thank you for your time and consideration this evening. I was able to get the postcard list that goes out to all the neighboring residents from Alex. I sent a letter kind of just giving everybody information on what we were going to present here tonight. We had a meeting on June 30th at the vacant lot in question, met with the neighbors, received a lot of feedback, some positive, a lot negative, to be quite honest. In short, it had to do with previous new constructions on their block, specifically roughly 5 years ago. But I did listen to all their feedback, and again, as Dennis said, if we were on the other side of the block, the east side of the block versus the west, we would have a little bit more depth and we wouldn't need it. It would meet the 50% compatibility. And again, it was originally plotted, they're all 45 feet frontage both sides of the street. So really, from a harmony of the neighborhood, it's consistent with both sides of the street. And then as far as the hardship, I feel it is substantial justice to me, the applicant, to be able to do the same type of build on the 45-foot as the neighbors have in the past. And none of this hardship was created by myself personally. That's how it was plotted originally. Again, it was mentioned that years ago the city combined it for tax purposes to have one parcel ID. with your primary residence, so it makes total sense as to why it was done, but is now created the hardship that we're here before you today. So in closing, I would appreciate your support on granting the variance tonight. Thank you.
All right, so we'll get into some details here that I think will be helpful in stating the case for Mr. Doman. First, just to go over a couple things, and Alex gave a good summary. There is one change from what Alex said, and that is Mr. Doman, since the time of the submittal of the survey, he has inspected the garage a little more in detail. He believes he can move the garage. He's moved garages before. He built single-family homes here in Royal Oak and other communities, and it's movable. Obviously, he would have to have the footings and proper concrete pad and things of that nature to move it behind the existing house. So that is the plan as it stands now. So there would be no demolition of that garage on lot 36. As I mentioned, it's a very modest request, and I think we have to look at kind of the geography and what happened in 1917. So I did attach to my letter, and I apologize, it's small. If you had to check out the details, you had to use a magnifying glass like I did. And this is the Tower Park subdivision, recorded, as I stated, in 1917. And the overwhelming majority of lots in this area are 45 by 126 or 127 foot depth. I mean, it's just this entire area, except for the houses on Blair on the east side. And I think it's pretty obvious what happened. This probably was farm property or something of that nature. And they had property left over, so they made them a little deeper. That wasn't the intent or the case. Everybody else has 45, pretty much, with some exceptions. There's a few corner lots and things like that when this was platted back in 1917. So we really are kind of an outlier down here with Blair Street on the east side having a little bit more depth, as I stated, the overwhelming majority of lots on all these streets, Altadena, Gainsborough, and all the houses on Rembrandt to the west, which is behind these two lots, all those houses are also 45 foot by 126.5 or whatever, 127 feet. So we are perhaps not with the compatibility, the strict compatibility standards don't meet that, but certainly with the broader area, including the houses right behind this lot, we would meet that standard if those were included for the entire subdivision. So again, I think this is a question of something that happened back in 1917 that we can't correct at this time, and that these lots were platted in that fashion. I would also point out that in going through the broader neighborhood, that there are only, by my visual inspection, 7 what I would call double lots, where you would have 90-foot frontage. So that is certainly the exception in this Tower Park subdivision and not the rule. There's also been a few lots that have been split up between neighbors. There's a handful of those. And some have taken like half of it and added it to their property. But that has been, again, the exception. So it is Mr. Doman's intent to build a new home on lot 35. He will not need any variances, so he's not going to be creating, if you do approve this variance and the lot split takes place, then we won't be creating a nonconformity with respect to lot 36. I do want to cover a couple things on the criteria. Hold on one second here, I apologize. Certainly this would do substantial justice because it would allow for lot 35 to be used for permitted purpose, which is a residential dwelling in an R1 district. Also, I think it would come as no surprise to anyone, given this is the only vacant lot in this block area of Blair, that this would be considered, that someone would want to build on it. There are no other vacant lots so in that immediate area, so you're not going to be creating some type of precedent or run on the bank where everybody's going to want to come and do and perform a lot split. I would say that the unique circumstances that we have here with this property are both physical and what I would call kind of legal. The physical is that, first of all, this house is at the end of the line. It borders commercial property. It doesn't have a residential neighbor. And in terms of issues about concern about construction and things like that, that tends to mitigate those types of issues. And also, it's the only lot on the block that does not have a home. Every other lot on the block does have a home. And again, this was, the plat occurred back in 1917. So we do believe we have the unique circumstances also because of the way it was platted, that later on, 85 or 86 years later, the city then passed an ordinance saying you have to have a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. Well, there's nowhere to change that, and we really can't even mitigate it. We can't go somewhere and buy property. We're kind of landlocked where we are, so even any attempt to try and mitigate is not possible. And as Mr. Doman mentioned, he did not create the hardship. So I think those are the bases in meeting the criteria and certainly taking a look at the broader area of the Tower Park subdivision, I think all lends to your approval of these variance requests, and I'd be glad to answer any questions or clarifications.
Can I clarify one thing?
Sure.
Not only did I meet with the neighbors, but I also met with some of the corresponding business owners that connect on the 11-mile side. I did gather a list of support, so I'll pass this. One of those is Mr. Jerry Amber, who connects towards by the garage. It's an adjacent property. I just want to clarify too, single-family home, modest, somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 square feet, and the existing house will stay. There's no intent to demo that house and build two. That is not in the cards, and I just want to put that on the record. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one. You mentioned 7 double lots, but when I'm looking through the list of properties in the area, they have for the comparison, they all appear to be 45, with the exception of the one we're considering, right?
I'm not quite following your question.
On the block, are there any?
No, not on the block. I said in the subdivision.
Okay. Well,
When you drive through the whole subdivision, there's 5 streets. There's only seven properties that have double lots.
Okay.
So I was just trying to point out that that's kind of the rarity rather than the rule.
Sure. Well, the reason I bring that up is I know Chairperson Offak would want us to consider whether granting this will drop the average so that there could be future splits, but there don't appear to be any double lots on this block that would be affected by the average if we approve this.
Right. There aren't any more to split, and if you approve it, it's 12 on one side under 6,000 square feet, 12 on the other side, slightly over 6,000.
But there aren't, the thing is, there aren't any more to split.
Exactly. I did, if I could, Mr. Moore, could I just address your question or inquiry? As I have done this in the past, the reason I said that is because I've had these cases in the past, and it was in fact a question of administrative convenience for the city to combine the lots under one parcel tax ID number. If you do a land combination, you generally get a new description or a new lot number. This is shown on the city's BS&A system, which the city manages and runs, and anybody who uses it for properties or I know real estate agents use them, architects, lawyers, and people looking for homes. That still identifies these lots as separate lots, as lots 35 and 36. There's no new legal description or new lot number that was given. So that was my basis for saying that.
Okay. Thanks. I just wondered where that was coming from. Thank you.
Any other questions for the developer? Mr. Bastian?
So I see that this property was most recently purchased at the end of May of this year, is that correct?
Right.
Okay. Is this property currently the primary residence of Mr. Domain?
No.
Okay. Is there any intent for Mr. Domain to live at this residence?
No, there is no.
No.
So this was purchased as an investment? That would be safe to say?
Right.
Okay. And I see that the square footage of the home that sits on this property is about 1,488 square feet. Does that sound about accurate? If this variance is granted, I heard that the home built on the adjacent lot would be modestly built at about 2,500 square feet?
I think he said 2,000 to 2,500 square feet. There's,
2,500.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That would be in total, it would be a two-story build, so the footprint wouldn't be any larger, in fact, a little bit smaller than the existing home.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I should add, if I could, that if you go through, not only on the block, there's two-story homes, but also through that Tower Park subdivision, there's been many new builds at the two-story level, and it seems everybody's surviving and living together well. So even with those changes in the geography.
Any other questions? I've got a quick one. So obviously with the garage now being moved, maybe this is a staff question, but does that put the potential new lot in either over 30% lot coverage or otherwise causing a problem with the zoning ordinance?
Yeah, I would say it would just still be advisable for the petitioner to just go ahead and demolish the garage as opposed to try to move it. And the reason I say that is because if the land division were to be approved and the garage shifted over, it would be going over the 10%, which is a allowable accessory lot coverage calculation.
Quick comment.
Okay.
on that one. Sure. The garage is going to have to be modified. Right now, it's an oversized 3 to 3.5 car. There is a portion that is around 20 feet. So I would take off the one side, shift it over, and we'd use 20 feet of the garage. So it wouldn't, 100% wouldn't go. We'd replace one wall. But that way, a lot of it doesn't go into, a landfill somewhere. We'd be able to repurpose and keep the continuity of the current existing home.
And staff can always verify that it meets all zoning ordinance provisions when they submit for permits to do that.
Believe me when I say we don't want to create another situation where we'd have to ask you for a variance. So that is not the intent. So it's either going to comply or then it would have to be demolished. But he thinks he can do it.
Any other questions? All right, with that, we'll open up to public comment. Again, reminder to everybody in the public comment, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, Jason Edberg, 120 North Blair. I live directly across the street from the impacted property. Since neighborhood support's been a question on a few of these, I also have a petition signed by 21 of the residents on the 100 block of North Blair in opposition to this property split and in opposition to the variance. For a number of reasons. And legitimately, I don't know how you can see that there's a practical hardship here. This is purely for financial gain. The petitioner is not Lewis Doman, it's Lewis Doman Inc. And this was purely speculative real estate investment that is hoping to pay off. And at the neighborhood meeting that Mr. Doman mentioned, he basically said that his intention is to subdivide it, sell the existing house on one lot, and then sell an empty lot. And with no plans, I don't know where move the garage and 2,500 square foot house came from, but he did not express that to us at the meeting that he referenced on the 30th. I really have a hard time believing that with any size garage or any decent size house, as some of the new constructions seem to be, that they would be able to maintain within that 30% land use at the diminished lot size. So I'm very doubtful about that. Practical hardships on the neighbors. First block from the commercial corridor means that we only have parking on one side of the street. Adding another household to that parking situation would exacerbate the already challenging parking situation we have. Less green space, more impervious area can certainly lend to more stormwater and flooding issues in our combined sewer district, which should also be a consideration. And really, the petitioner created their own hardship here via real estate speculation, right? They just purchased this house at the end of May. They knew full well what the zoning requirements were, what the ordinances were, and what the lot sizes and all of the other information was. So either them or their realtor misled them, someone else, whatever it may be, but they knew full well what they were getting into and thereby created their own hardship. And I've heard a lot about going back and 1917 and everything else, and I don't know why the city would be interested in going back to the way things were in 1917 when our ordinances are intended to plan for our future. So with that, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm tiny. Hi, my name is Natalia. I live at 125 North Blair, so I am the neighbor directly to the north of this property. My wonderful neighbor, Jason, actually said most of what I was going to say, but I would say that I am here to object the petition for the lot size variance as well for the land division. I don't think that there is any good cause for the variance to be approved. There is some criteria which was brought up that this property cannot be reasonably used for the purpose that it is currently permitted for by the zoning, and I disagree. It's currently being used as a single family lot. It has been used as a single family lot and as a rental property, and I don't feel that they have met that it can't be used and therefore needs to be split up to build a second home. Another criteria is the hardship, and again, this was already mentioned. The home was just purchased within the last 60 days, I believe at the end of May. It was purchased with the intention, as he has communicated in both letter and in meeting, and I did not have the chance to be at the meeting, I was out of town, that the intention was to build another home there, and that to resell the property. So it was clearly for his own personal financial gain and profit. And so that would be a hardship that he created by purchasing this, knowing that the lot size needed to be split up for him to be able to build a secondary home or sell it off to a development. The splitting of the lots would be a detriment to the neighborhood, and to only allow for him to make a profit. It doesn't fit the standard of a variance approval. As my neighbor mentioned, obviously there would be a parking issue. I already heard it mentioned tonight about the green spaces, which I greatly appreciate too. Building another home would just create more of an impermeable surface. We do have some water backup when there is storms. It's just another surface for water to run into the road. And so I don't think that this would fit what is needed for the approval, and to grant it would just simply diminish the value of our building codes here. Also, the parties who submitted supporting letters have no vested interest in the neighborhood. They are either not from that block or businesses, and I would also object to the construction, saying that construction is not going to be a disruption. I live only 2 houses away from where they would building a home. And for the garage movement, I would also mention that the driveway does not extend all the way to the back of the property. And that is a shared driveway, essentially. We have like maybe a foot of grass between my driveway and the driveway that is existing, that only runs up to the existing house and would not extend back to where a garage could be moved or built or added to lot B, I guess. So thank you for your time. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other people to speak for or against?
Hello, Joe Gabriel. I'm 3 doors down at 133 North Blair, and I agree with what my neighbor said about the whole thing. It should be denied. Mr. Coleman bought the property knowing it didn't conform, and he's just trying to make profit off this, and it's just going to create more water in the street and more runoff and more congestion with parking, and it's not good for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else to speak for or against? Going once?
Speak a little more here. And when it started out, somebody mentioned that he was going to build 2 new single-family homes, but he's saying he's going to keep that existing home. So there's controversy there. There's one story that he wants to build 2 new homes, which somebody on this side mentioned, and he's saying differ. So we don't need another 2 Bigfoot homes over there, that's for sure, let alone 1. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody to speak for or against? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, we're going to close the public comment. Before we bring it back to this side of the board, again, I just want to remind the petitioner that we are 1 person short. So you can either, if you think you want to go ahead, you're welcome to. If not, we can always postpone it for next month. But again, you are rolling the dice. We may not have a full board next month.
As they say in NASA, or go.
All right, that we'll take it to this side of the board. Any discussion and or motion? All right, I will start with the discussion point. I will not be making a motion, but just to kind of get the discussion going, the question that I have is, when there's only 300 square feet short, 600 square feet total, how much are we talking about in actual, like, I personally see the practical difficulty as that 600 square feet. So I would, in thinking about this, I might want to think about, what might be able to be done with, if there was an extra 600 square feet. So I admittedly misread this when I first read it. I thought it was 300 feet in the other direction, but it's actually short. So I guess that would be my opening thought for my colleagues here.
Mr. Clark. I brought that up before, and when I saw the list up there that had all the different, sizes of the lots in more of a spreadsheet form. But again, when I've driven the street, our old building was right around the corner from this, so I know it well. I've driven the neighborhoods, I know it well. And, to me, this one lot is more of the anomaly. We've had several of these cases in front of us. Some we approved, some we denied. But in the cases we denied, to me, it was more of an optics or what you feel on the street. Some lots are 45. We've had multiple double lots. Some lots are even smaller, bigger. There's inconsistency on the street. To me, from the spirit of this, or just looking at it as you walk it, these are all 45-foot wide lots. This is the anomaly. It seems consistent to me to have another home there. I know it's another house and maybe eliminates 1 parking space on the street, but to me, this feels out of character having this single house in the lot. And the alternative, if Mr. Doman was to construct a larger lot here, that would be even more out of scale, because he could build a home that's 30% lot coverage here, be bigger footprint. That would seem out of the, a bit more inconsistent with what could be done here. And it's quite common as you drive the neighborhoods, and even where I live, and there's new construction, existing homes. It's just part of the fabric of the community, and it happens. So I think what has to be designed here, constructed, would have to meet the ordinance intent. They have to meet the setback restrictions. I highly doubt they get a variance in front of this board for something that didn't comply. So to me, it passes the sniff of the field test when you walk the street. It feels like it fits.
Ms. Robinson.
I'm going past this too, and I actually am from this neighborhood. It fits. I mean, and you're right, it's an anomaly in the neighborhood where everything else is 45 foot, so you see all these houses there, that it seems like putting a house, and boy, I am the biggest one to say, don't use up all of our vacant land. I vote against this stuff all the time, but here, it felt like a house here would make sense if it fits in, if it's consistent with what the rest of the neighborhood looks like. However, and this is where I'm really conflicted too, is because I see so many people in the neighborhood saying, no, we don't want this. So that puts me on the fence.
Christensen.
Yeah, I'm also I think I'm in support of this. If I'm reading this chart correctly, virtually every property on that same street is within 11 square feet of what they're asking for. So it's very consistent.
Is that a motion?
No.
Mr. Bastian.
I actually have a staff question. Supposing that this variance were granted, that puts lot, I believe it's 35, the one at the end, puts it at about 5,700 square feet. Does the 30% coverage then apply to the 5,700 square feet for a home to be built on
For
the
lots
lot?
that are less than 6,000 square feet in area, the maximum lot coverage is actually 35% as opposed to 30.
Okay.
Can we get a motion on the table? Mr. Klatt. We have a motion. Mr. Reddy, second. All right, Mr. Klatt, you went. You want to add anything else?
I already said my piece.
Mr. Reddy.
Yeah, Mr. Klatt said my piece. I was very torn on this, but I was convinced by what Mr. Klatt had to say.
Mr. Lineweber.
When I look at this, the consistency in the neighborhood is, you've got a very consistent set of homes here, and this extra, the double lot that's there is the anomaly in my opinion. I appreciate, neighbors liking the, extra space that's there, but you do have to look at the property owner and especially when this area was developed, there is a regular layout to all these homes. The size of the lot for both of these lots is within, a few feet of the neighboring lots that are on that side of the street. So very consistent. I'll be in support of the split.
Mr. Bastian.
I'll be in support based on the fact that I find the practical difficulty to be the fact that the lots were combined to begin with. That is not something that was self-created by the petitioner. And as all my colleagues have said, that, 45 feet seems to be standard frontage, and I think that keeps consistent with the neighborhood.
Anything else, Mr. Klatt? Mr. Christensen? Ms. Robinson? Mr. Moore?
Yeah, I'll just say I'm struggling with this one because of the criteria that we have to evaluate, and B specifically states that the variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to the other property owners in the district. And I think we've heard from more than we usually do against this particular proposal.
The hard part is I normally would just say, yeah, this is pretty straightforward and, to support it. But again, I do see where you're coming from, Mr. Moore. I think that what the neighbors want is very important here. That said, I'm probably going to support this motion, and the reason I'm going to support it is we cannot tell landowners what they can and cannot do with their land. If the zoning ordinance and the city approve it and they say, yes, you can do this, we can't tell anybody what they can or cannot do with their land. And so for me, the city has decided, or they've verified that that they would be, within the rights of the zoning ordinance to do this. And I fully trust the city's building and planning division that any permits that were required, and whether or not the garage was demolished or moved, it would be done according to the zoning ordinance and the building code. So for that, I'm going to support it. With that, we'll go to a vote. All of those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All of those opposed? All right, and that's 6-2, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I just want the record to reflect that last July I was here, and we had a much louder band. They had the rock and roll. Those of you who were here, we could barely hear one another speak. So again, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the concert.
All right.
With that, other business? Seeing none. Oh, sorry, Mr. Bashan.
Just briefly,
That's what happens when friends on the board.
Non-residents profit at our expense.
okay. I would just like to invite our colleagues on the Planning Commission for a meeting to discuss changes to the master plan and other matters that we see coming before us. And I don't necessarily want to put parameters on what the discussion would be, but I've had some conversation with people in the community, some other members of the board. I think it would be productive to have a joint meeting.
I would be in favor of that. I don't know the details or the semantics or the legalese about that, but if there was a meeting, I would for sure attend it. I think that's a great idea.
Is this changes to the master plan that was just approved? I mean,
Yes, the master plan that was just approved. Well,
are we talking about like the changes that were in the approved or changes to the newly approved?
let me rephrase. There are a number, it has been my experience thus far, granted limited, but big patterns emerge and one notices those things. And I've seen patterns of certain things that we see on a frequent basis that I think it would be reasonable and productive to discuss with the Planning Commission, especially now based on the fact that a new master plan has been passed by the Planning Commission and the City Commission, and to discuss how potential future changes to zoning ordinance might be crafted in order to minimize some of the things that we see coming up time and again.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
Comment to that? Yeah. I think
We'll make this kind of an open discussion. I'm not going to call on you. Just jump on in.
The Planning Commission, as I understand it, is in the process of selecting, and Alex, you can, I'm sure, give us an update, but selecting the finalists to solicit proposals from for the actual ordinance writing itself. And I think there's 5 firms that they're looking at. As they get that list whittled down to 1 or 2, when it actually starts to initiate the process itself, would be a good opportunity for us to be included in a formal or informal discussion with that group and planning. I don't know what the plan will be going forward with that entity, but I would ask that we get included at the table.
Sure. Yeah, and if so, the board is interested in hosting a joint meeting, I guess a course of action right now under other businesses, someone can make a motion as well as a support for staff to send that directive over to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission can take that decision on themselves.
I'll make that motion to invite the Planning Commission to a joint meeting, whether formal or informal, to discuss topics we've already discussed here.
Do we have a second? Mr. Moore? Yeah. Oh, I didn't see one. All right, Mr. Christensen, you can have it this time. All right, any further debate, questioning? If not, I think that's a great idea. I think one of the things that I would like the Planning Commission and the consultant and anybody else to do is to kind of really give us a little more clearance about whether that's 3,500 square feet or it's 30 or 35%. Again, that's obviously to be discussed, but I would certainly not only support, I would gladly attend such a meeting. With that, any other questions, comments? Mr. Klatt? All right, let's take a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That's none. It's 8-0. All right, any other new public comment?
I think that was handled on the way out.
Yeah, on the way out, we heard that they were happy.
All right, let's make the mystery motion. Who wants to take us home? Mr. Moore.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Lineweber. All right, all those in favor to adjourn, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, we're out of here.